Google just became the middleman between your brand and your customer. And as with any company that holds a search monopoly on your business, you didn't get a say in this. Every time someone searches for keywords or answers your business sells solutions to, an AI overview and chatbot now dictates what they see first, how your brand is presented, and whether your website even gets a click. For some companies, the information is flat out wrong, and it's proving as a pivotal evolution to how we interact with businesses online.
9,000 miles from Silicon Valley, armed conflict in Myanmar is quietly choking off one of the most critical supply chains on the planet. The minerals inside your phone, your electric car, even missile guidance systems, they all trace back to a war zone most people could not find on a map. Coming up on Unbreakable Ventures, how Google's AI search is stripping businesses of brand control, the rare earth crisis hiding inside Myanmar's civil war, and 5 quick fire threats you need on your radar, plus we will break down what you can actually do about it. Welcome to Unbreakable Ventures. I'm Ollie Law, and you are listening to our fortnightly risk update where we dive into emerging and current risks from around the world, focusing on some big stories and some you may have missed. We use the categories from the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report to simplify the threats we're monitoring. But we also do some deep dives and interviews with industry peers.
It's Tuesday, the 3rd of June, and we're covering the world's global threats over the last fortnight. So grab a coffee and let's get into it.
When was the last time you actually clicked on a website from a Google search? Think about it, because increasingly, you do not have to. Google's AI overviews are now answering your question right there at the top of the page before you ever scroll down to an actual website. And that sounds convenient for users. But for businesses, this is a seismic shift, one that most are not paying enough attention to. Here's what's happening. Google has rolled out AI-generated summaries that sit above traditional search results. You type in a question, and instead of getting a list of blue links, you get a neat AI-written paragraph that answers your query directly. Sounds helpful, sure. But this wouldn't be Unbreakable Ventures if we didn't tell you the catch. That paragraph might be summarizing your competitor's product next to yours. It might get your pricing wrong. It might hallucinate a product feature that does not exist. And you, the business, have almost zero control over what it says. For small and medium businesses, this is an existential threat to visibility. If you have spent years investing in search engine optimization to get your website ranking on page 1, that investment is now being undermined. Users are getting their answers without ever visiting your site. Click-through rates are dropping. And the traffic that used to drive your revenue is evaporating. But here is what people are missing. This is not just a small business problem. Larger organizations face a different but equally dangerous version of this risk. Imagine a customer searching for your flagship product and getting an AI-generated summary that misrepresents its features. Or worse, presents inaccurate safety information. You did not write it, you cannot edit it, and millions of people might see it before you even know it exists. Publishers and content creators are caught in a particularly cruel paradox. Their articles and expertise are the very content training Google's AI. But that AI then replaces the need to visit their websites. It is like building a competitor's shopfront using your own bricks, and then watching customers walk through their door instead of yours. The broader concern here is consolidation of informational power. Google's AI is becoming the default intermediary between businesses and their customers. It decides how your brand is presented, what information is highlighted, and what gets left out. Industry analysts warn that this fundamentally alters the economics of digital marketing. The entire search ecosystem, worth tens of billions in advertising, is being restructured around a model where Google's AI is the gatekeeper. So who should be worried? Honestly, if your business has an online presence, you should be paying attention. E-commerce businesses are seeing AI-generated product comparisons that can favor competitors or misrepresent pricing. Digital marketing professionals are watching their entire discipline get disrupted in real time. So what can you actually do? First, diversify your customer acquisition channels now. If organic search is your primary way of reaching customers, you are building on increasingly unstable ground. Invest in email lists, community platforms, direct relationships, channels you actually own and control. Second, start monitoring how Google's AI represents your brand. There are tools emerging that can audit AI-generated summaries. Use them, document inaccuracies, push back through Google's feedback mechanisms, and if necessary, through legal channels. Third, structure your website content to be as AI-friendly as possible. Use structured data markup. Publish authoritative, clearly sourced material. The better structured your content, the more likely an AI system is to represent it accurately. If this sounds like a different language, don't worry. Marketing agencies and website developers have been doing the technical amendments these problems present for decades. Despite the threat being a uniquely Google problem, the solutions are built on legacy models. If you keep your website up to date, you will mitigate many of these issues. Fourth, build direct-to-consumer relationships, loyalty programs, subscription models, first-party data. These are your most resilient assets in a world where a search engine decides whether customers ever see your website. And finally, get involved in industry advocacy. Push for regulatory frameworks that require AI search systems to disclose sources, provide correction mechanisms, and treat brand information with the accuracy it demands. Individual companies pushing back alone will struggle. Collective action carries far more weight. This is not a future problem. This is happening right now. Every single day, the way your customers find you and the way your brand is represented is being reshaped by an AI system you did not ask for and cannot directly control. The businesses that adapt first will be the ones that survive this shift.
You are listening to Unbreakable Ventures, a threat intelligence publication by FixInc. Subscribe today via unbreakableventures.com to receive free resource and deep dives from industry experts. Unbreakableventures.com, where resilience is about community and communication. Subscribe today.
Before we move on to our second threat update, we're sharing our quick-fire emerging threats we've picked up throughout the week. These will be noteworthy stories we think you should know about, but less detailed than our two core threats analysed.
Tensions around the Strait of Hormuz and a developing El Niño pattern are converging to threaten global food supply chains. Disruption to the strait risks choking fertilizer and grain shipments from the Gulf, while El Niño could slash agricultural yields across Asia and Latin America. Import-dependent nations face the sharpest exposure to food price spikes.
In the United States, roughly $670 billion in planned data center investment is being built in regions with elevated hurricane, tornado, and flood risk. As AI demand accelerates construction timelines, operators may be placing critical digital infrastructure directly in climate vulnerable zones without adequate catastrophe modeling.
Semiconductor fabrication plants run continuously, and even a brief disruption can destroy in-process wafers worth millions, with restart times stretching into weeks. In May, 48,000 Samsung Electronics employees prepared for an 18-day strike over bonus disputes. The impact would have been so catastrophic for South Korea, Prime Minister Kim Min-seok warned that the government could invoke emergency mediation powers. This is critical context because the semiconductor industry is already under enormous geopolitical and capacity strain. Any additional disruption cascades outward, impacting virtually every sector from automotive to healthcare.
Rising geopolitical tensions, piracy, and climate hazards at sea are driving up cargo losses. Yet many businesses still overlook marine insurance as a frontline risk management tool. Inadequate coverage leaves firms dangerously exposed to catastrophic financial loss when shipments are delayed, damaged, or seized in transit.
A UK parliamentary report warns that British supply chains remain dangerously unprepared for major shocks, including conflict, pandemics, and climate events. Critical sectors such as food, energy, and pharmaceuticals lack sufficient stockpiles and contingency planning to withstand severe disruption scenarios.
Further sources and references can be found in the footnotes of this podcast. But without further ado, let's look at our second threat update this week.
Myanmar remains caught in this vicious cycle of internal military conflicts among different players. The main central player is the Myanmar military that has civilianized itself to make it more acceptable to the international community through what many considers a sham election.
There is a civil war happening in Myanmar right now, and buried inside that conflict is a supply chain crisis that could ripple through the technology in your pocket, the electric car in your driveway, and the defense systems protecting entire nations. Armed resistance forces in Myanmar's Kachin and Shan states have launched targeted offensives against junta-controlled mining regions. These are not random skirmishes. These are deliberate strikes on some of the most strategically important mineral extraction sites on Earth. Why does this matter to you? Because Myanmar supplies a significant share of China's heavy rare earth feedstock. We are talking about elements like dysprosium and terbium. Names most people have never heard of, but materials that are absolutely essential for permanent magnets. Those magnets go into electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, fighter jet engines, satellite components, and precision-guided munitions. Now layer on another complication. China dominates global rare earth refining. So even if a country sources its raw materials from Australia or Canada, those minerals often still need to pass through Chinese processing facilities before they become usable. Myanmar's disruption is not just tightening supply at the mine, it is amplifying a pre-existing single point of failure across the entire global value chain. Western governments have recognized this vulnerability. The United States, the European Union, Australia, and others have all accelerated rare earth diversification programs. But here is the uncomfortable truth. New mining and refining operations take years, sometimes a decade, to go from exploration to production. The gap between strategic ambition and operational capability is enormous, and that gap leaves critical industries exposed right now. Then there is the dimension that makes this even more complex. Myanmar's rare earth mining involves credible reports of forced labor, severe environmental destruction, and direct conflict financing. If your supply chain traces back to these sources, even indirectly through a third or fourth-tier supplier, you carry regulatory risk under tightening due diligence laws. You carry reputational risk if investigative journalists or NGOs connect the dots. And you carry ethical risk that no compliance framework can fully paper over. So, who should be most concerned? Electric vehicle and clean energy manufacturers face direct production risk. If heavy rare earth supply tightens further, vehicle and turbine production timelines slip and costs escalate. Defense and aerospace contractors are in a similar position, with the added dimension of national security implications. Technology companies and electronics manufacturers might think they are insulated, but rare earths flow through component supply chains in ways that are often invisible until a shortage hits at the assembly stage. And governments pursuing ambitious clean energy transition targets need to confront an awkward reality. Their decarbonization strategies assume stable access to materials that are anything but stable. So what should businesses be doing? First, map your rare earth supply chain all the way to origin. Do not stop at your direct supplier. Push deeper. Ask specific questions about where materials are sourced and where they are processed. You cannot manage a risk you cannot see. Second, start qualifying alternative sources now. Materials from Australia, Canada, Brazil, and emerging African suppliers may cost more, but beginning the technical testing and certification process today means you have options in 12 to 18 months when you might desperately need them. Third, invest in recycling. Rare earths can be recovered from end-of-life electronics, old magnets, and spent batteries. Urban mining is not a complete solution, but it builds a secondary supply buffer that reduces your dependence on primary extraction from volatile regions. Fourth, engage with government-critical mineral programs. Stockpiling initiatives, joint procurement arrangements, and research funding for substitute materials are all areas where industry and government need to work together. No single company can solve this alone. And fifth, run the scenario. Model what happens to your production, your revenue, and your contractual obligations if heavy rare earth supply is disrupted for 6 months, for 12 months, for 18. Know which products are most exposed and have a contingency plan ready, whether that means design modifications to reduce rare earth intensity or pre-negotiated alternative supply agreements. The Myanmar rare earth crisis is a reminder that the clean, high-tech future we are building rests on foundations that are anything but clean or stable. The minerals powering the energy transition and defending nations are being dug out of a war zone. And right now, there is no quick fix. The businesses and governments that act earliest will have the greatest resilience. Everyone else will be scrambling.
That's it for today's update. If you need help navigating these threats or building a plan to protect your business, the same advisors who collate these insights are here to help. Head over to unbreakableventures.com to book a complimentary chat online with one of them. And if you found this resource useful, consider subscribing to Unbreakable Ventures or sharing the article with your network. After all, resilience is about community and communication. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, stay safe.
Unbreakable Ventures is brought to you by the Senior Advisory Team at Fixing, a boutique resilience advisory based in the Oceania, ASEAN and India regions. Special thanks to our sponsor and Europe's leading SaaS provider for resilience software, F24. Our resources are researched and published by industry specialists across New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia and the UK. This podcast provides advice and opinion on disaster recovery and the threat landscape. The content is not a substitute for expert guidance during a crisis. Unbreakable Ventures is trademarked by Fixing Consulting Partners, a Fixing Group company.